I did grow up in the Detroit area. I had a modest middle-class upbringing. I'm the child of a Holocaust survivor. So, it was, very family-oriented, very close. I've been working in the retail business, which you may have noticed is something I've done a lot of since I was about 11. I started as a stock boy once a week. I don't know that I was entitled to that, but that's what I did. I worked for a company called Highland Superstores from when I was 11 until I was almost 30. Part-time most of the way. In high school, I said I worked full-time because I worked 40 hours a week. I didn't understand that to be really successful in the business world, that was part-time. But I did that from about 15 on. I did go to school in Boston to follow my other dream, and then came back and worked for Highland until I was about 30. I had been a merchant, so I was never really a technology guy, but I was a merchant. I always enjoyed it a lot. I got a call to interview for a job in Dallas, and that was with a company called CompUSA. I'd never been on an interview in my life, literally. So I kind of just said I was doing it for the experience, and then somehow they said yes, and I called my wife from the airport, and I said, honey, remember those cowboy boots you got when we were in college? I said, you probably want to kick the dust off of them. I said, we're moving to Dallas. And fortunately, she agreed with that idea, because I guess that was presumptuous, but whatever. The company was a nice, wonderful entrepreneurial company. We had 8 stores, did a couple $100 million in business, and took it from that to doing almost $7 billion. After about 7 years, we were the largest seller of computer products in the world for a long time. And I had a great time with it. Mentioned I'm on several boards, one of which is called Micron Technology, which is a really big chip manufacturer. I've done a lot of different things. When I left CompUSA, I went to the auto parts business, and I can assure you I know absolutely nothing about auto parts. I did that because the experiences are similar. It worked out well. I had a great time, met great people. And then after that, I decided private equity. That was all the rage. That's what I was going to do. And I had tried to work with different companies to go and buy, who did I fail at buying? Toys R Us, almost got that one, didn't. Radio Shack, same thing happened. Pep Boys, didn't happen. And then I realized it was time for what I call Larry 2.0. And Larry 2.0 was to become a bigger fish in a smaller pond. And I found that when I did that, I actually was a lot happier and was a lot more successful too. And one of the things that I try and tell people is it's not always just about climbing the corporate ladder. It's about finding where you are and where you want to be and where you can have the most happiness and have the greatest effect. I like to teach. I like to mentor. I like the fact that I've got about 24 people who work for me that are CEOs of companies around the country. It feels good, It feels like you did something. They still call me and, ask advice and all that, and that's a good thing. So a company a little while ago, this company I run today is called Apollo Brands, and you won't have heard of it. It's a company that sells things like tablet computers and headphones and MP3 players and a variety of electronics products to places like Walmart and Target and Best Buy and all that kind of stuff is where we sell, Amazon and the like. I got involved in the company a few years ago as an investor. The company was doing $25 million a year, so a much smaller company than I'd been used to. And then we started growing a lot, and the board asked me to come in and run it. So 3 years later, we'll do $150 million in business in a year. And that's a lot of growth. In fact, we just got awarded, I don't know where in the top 10, but one of the 10 fastest growing companies in Texas. I was really nervous about giving this talk. It's about technology, and I've been in technology most of my life. And my concern ultimately is, was I relevant? I used to be the youngest guy in the room. I always was the youngest guy. I was always the one who was, wow, he's hardworking and he's bright and this and that, and he's going places. Apparently, I've been there because I'm now the oldest guy in the room most of the time, and that's hard. And I realize when I want to know about technology, I have to ask my kids just like everybody else does. And it really concerned me. I agreed to speak, and I went, ugh, maybe I didn't do the wisest thing here because I don't know, again, if I'm relevant. So, and understand, I did a lot of public speaking. I was on TV a lot. I spoke in front of a couple times, thousands of people, and I was fine and didn't need notes, knew what I was doing. This was a lot harder for me. So again, I'll hope along the way that you'll ask questions because otherwise it'll be really tough. I mean, I had people who listened to me. They thought I knew what I was talking about. Wall Street listened to me. I could move stocks. It was really cool, okay? Give you an idea how much I'll date myself. I remember arguing with all the analysts at something called the CES show, the Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas, about the importance of BlackBerry adding a color screen, okay? And they went and said how stupid this was, and they were going to tank BlackBerry stock. And I said, look, my role in this whole chain is I get the customer. I understand them, and I'm telling you, you're not thinking a color screen leads to pictures and leads to all this interactivity, and that's where it's going to go. And everybody took my advice and bought BlackBerry and made millions, and I didn't. So not so bright, actually. I'm curious, in the room, show of hands, who's heard of CompUSA, honestly? Okay, so if you're older, maybe. Okay, if you're younger, less so, typically. You know, again, I realized this whole idea of relevance, and I realized the thing that I'm kind of here for, half the group's never heard of. So that was kind of interesting to me. So anyway, I struggled with all this. You know, I came from a generation, this is what I call an in-between generation. We didn't have computers when we were in school, okay, growing up. In college, there were some kids in engineering who were starting to play with computers a little bit, but that wasn't me. And I mean, I worked many years ago with a guy who was a few years younger than me, and his name was Dave, and Dave was really bright with computers, and I wanted to learn. It was the mid-'80s, maybe. And he had this portable computer. It was 42 pounds. It was called the first compact luggable, and I took it home one night, and it was determined that I was going to learn about computers because I at least understood they were the future. I took it home and got to the point where I think I could like put my name in or something, and then called him, and he worked for me so I could do this. 2:30 in the morning, I called him. I said, Dave, what do I do now? I'm done. I said, how do I go to sleep now? He goes, turn it off. And I went, oh, okay. That's so you can see how technologically capable I am. I was an original user of Lotus 123 version 1, and I was a master. I mean, I was absolutely the guy everybody in the office went to. I now can't do Excel, okay? I have no clue at all. Fortunately, it's because I've had people along the way who've kind of done a lot of that stuff for me. But I realized my skill set's not what I wish it was. So in any way, I went from the youngest to the oldest. I don't know all the trends. I asked my kids for help. And then I started to think about, does any of that really matter? Is it about the technology, or is it not? By the way, if this gets really, really too boring, I've spent a lot of time over the years, let's see, with Michael Dell, with Bill Gates, with Steve Jobs, with Carlos Slim, all these guys, you know, really wealthy, real leaders. I had dinner one night at Bill Gates' house. I can tell you lots of good stories, and you'll still come away saying, this wasn't a total waste of your time, okay? And honest, they're actually, 3 out of the 4 are really cool people. The last one, less so. I won't say in which order, by the way. Oh, no, go. You want to know? Steve Jobs. Really? Oh, my God. Yeah, I mean, uh-oh. All right, camera. Oh, he's dead. It doesn't matter, right? Okay. No, here's what I would tell you. Bill Gates is what you expect. He's a nerd, okay? And I met him many times. We did a lot of presentations together and stuff like that. I had dinner at his home one night. By the way, his home, we're talking serious. We arrived by boat, okay? Okay, and I mean, it's an amazing place. I mean, he's got a room that's a trampoline room. Okay, you literally just walk in, you know, you step over the threshold and you're bouncing. He's got a library. Look, I can't say that I understand what every historical artifact was, but the guy's got originals from Ben Franklin, and he's got his own librarian in his library. It was amazing. I mean, really was very cool. But what you found with Bill is he was a regular guy. His kids came running up to him, and you know, they wrapped their little arms and legs around his legs, and he tried to walk around and said, no, gotta go away. He was okay, nerdy, not very social, but he was cool. Carlos Slim, who you may or may not have heard of, Carlos Slim is a Mexican national. Most people view as the wealthiest person in the world. Sometimes it's him, sometimes it's Warren Buffett, sometimes it's Bill Gates. And CompUSA was a public company, and we sold the company to Carlos along the way, so I worked for him. So I spent a lot of time in Mexico City, and he was very gregarious, very smart, and most of the time kind of fun to be around. Let's see, I'm leaving. Michael Dell. Michael is worked 20 hours a day. Literally has in his office has a little ante room where he has like a bedroom, and he sleeps there most of the time. On the other hand, he gets up in the morning and takes his kids to school. So I think he's okay. All right. Steve Jobs. Steve, look, is a very impressive guy. I met him numerous times. He was kind enough to ask us to introduce the iMac, which was when they sort of made their turnaround. And it was a really cool experience, and all the unveilings and the security people and all that stuff. But personally, he was really tough. His people didn't like him a whole bunch. They admired him. Everybody admires Steve because he's very bright and, really had, charisma in his own way. But interpersonal skills, his people were terrified of him, and he didn't treat people all that nicely. Let me say it that way. That's, I think, as PG as I can make it, okay? So a little long-winded, but I got more stories if you want them, okay? The dinner at Bill's house, very serious, very serious. Anyway, I was thinking about technology, and I realized that, does it really matter? And then, I sort of got to the understanding that technology isn't paramount, understanding what to do with it, what the applications are, what it impacts, that's what counts. And you don't have to be a technologist for that at all. You just have to have some general understanding that you can go from point A to point Z, and there's a whole bunch of stuff you touch along the way. And I think the technology today is really an enabler. At one point in time, it was about the technology in and of itself. I think it's just about using technology just as much as you would use a road to travel on. It's, it's just part of the structure. Technology also is, look, it's always changing. It's more about, I like to say, and I've stolen some of these things from other people, so, know that I wouldn't think these things up. It's about vision. It's about strategy. It's about focus, execution, your personal integrity, I think your personality, and then at the end of the day, your loyalty. Your loyalty to the people you work with, your loyalty to your family, that kind of thing that I think matters. I remember entering the workplace in the early 80s, and everyone was talking about how the US was done. The auto industry, as everybody around here knew, was absolutely done. The Japanese were taking over. That was the end of it. And we had to figure out how to live as being a second-class citizen in the world. And then all of a sudden, Microsoft and Intel came around. And we became, without question, the most dominant in every measure you wanted to look at from a business technology and the like. And then, of course, they're not so big anymore. So we're going to go off the wrong end again. Then you get Apple and Google. Now you get Facebook and Twitter the last couple of years. Now the app age in the cloud. It doesn't seem to really matter. It seems as though in a very connected world, there's a lot of resilience. And I think the issue today is that it's the age of sort of individual opportunity because it's so easy to be an individual because you're so connected to do just about anything you want to do. So I try and think a lot about what's next. And the truth is I have absolutely no idea. I think it's probably very mobile. I think it's probably very personal. And certainly it's very social. When I moved to Dallas, I had signed a 5-year contract. And I said I was going to be there for 5 years and 1 day. It's not that Dallas is a bad place. Economically, it's wonderful. Infrastructure all works. There's no potholes. I mean, all those things. I mean, it's really, people make a good living. Unemployment is not a literal zero, but it's zero. If you want a job, you can work, okay? Cost of living is very low. It's great. It's hot as can be in the summer. But it's a great place, and I've raised my family there. I've been very happy with that. But I don't know. I'm the kind of guy who, when they play the national anthem, I cry. Okay? So to me, I'm also the guy to whom this will always be my home. And a lot of it is, I read the Detroit News and Free Press every day, or at least the sports section, and then whatever else I can get to. I'm a big sports fan, so that's part of it for me, just selfishly, is that it's a connection. And this is going to sound strange. One of the things I realize that I miss when I come home, my mom still lives in the area. I have friends and relatives who live in the area, and I spend a lot of time. I'm very close with them. But one of the things I realize I miss when I'm in Dallas is you could be at a restaurant or a bar or at a party, and everyone's talking, as they should, about the Cowboys or about local things and the like, and I have no interest. My local is still here. When I come home, I want to go, and it's usually food-related, frankly. I want to go to the Franklin Cider Mill, okay, because I grew up with the Franklin Cider Mill. I mean, I want to go and get, it's all food. Let me look at me. But, right, I want to, right, he knows. I want to go to Miller's Bar in Dearborn on Michigan Avenue. I want to go to a restaurant that I've been going to for 25 years in Windsor called The Cook Shop. It's my favorite restaurant in the world. And it's just, they're all connections for me. So as regards to the university, I did go one summer here just because I wanted to, and it was kind of fun, and even though I knew it wasn't going to be where I was really going to school, I kind of wanted the experience. I always, in my dreams, figured this is where I'd be, so somehow it always was part of me, you know? When I was 15, went to, older friends who were already in school here and spent the weekends and, all that kind of stuff. So it was important to me. And it's just, I can't give you good reasons other than it's in my heart. And that's it. That's probably the only honest reason. Yes?
You mentioned in your opening remarks about teaching. Would you tell us a bit about how you came to that? What is teaching you?
Well, it's not a classroom, although I've done some of those a couple of times, but it's really not that. I think we all know this, especially as you get a little bit older. It doesn't matter if your IQ is 160 or if it's, well, let's call it over 100, okay, or 100. It's the experiences you have in your life, okay? My mom is almost 93, and I realized, like they say about kids, she probably wasn't all that bright when I was younger, but she's gotten a lot smarter, I think being able to share the experiences and without it coming off, too cocky, the wisdom that you get with years. And look, I've been very fortunate. I worked hard, but I got a lot luckier than most people. And not just so much because I made a good living, but rather because I got to do all the things that I wanted to do in my life. I wanted to be involved in technology. I wanted to be involved in retail. I wanted to be in the corner office. I wanted to have certain things. I got to do them. But I think it's being able to take those experiences at this point today when most of my goals from a purely it's on your bucket list kind of thing are pretty much, there's always more, but pretty much, I feel like I got there. It's about feeling good inside. And to me, the feeling good inside is about helping some other people get it. I used to have a teacher in high school who was a math teacher. And he would say, everybody's heads down and they're confused. He'd say, oh, I saw a light go on. Huh? And exactly. And, saw the light go on. We went to the same high school. No, we did, really, actually. And yeah, I'd see a light go on. And that's what I like the most. I like to see the light go on. It makes me feel good. That's probably where I had to close, but sorry, I wrote this, so you get this. Okay. There's a guy, his name's Calvin Carter. He's the founder of a company called Bottle Rocket. Bottle Rocket, which you probably would never have heard of, is a maker of apps, okay? And they do most of the apps, less stuff that you'd buy on your iPad for entertainment, but they do them for businesses and so on to be disruptive and the like. And I listened to him speak a couple weeks ago, and since I knew I was doing this, I was furiously scribbling notes, and then he was good enough to share some stuff with me afterwards. And a lot of these are his and some of them are mine. He says, figure out and live your values. Don't do things to impress your friends. Do what you love. Pick one thing and take a stand. Don't worry about the competition. That's their journey, not yours. One of the things is I hate, and I've always hated in business when people tell me that we can't do something. It just pisses me off. I want someone to come and tell me what the answer is. It might be unreasonable, might cost too much, might take too long, but I don't want ever somebody to tell me you can't. I want somebody to tell me how. And then together we'll figure out, is it right to do or not? So I would tell people, focus on the how, don't focus on the can't. One of the ones I think is kind of going to sound counterintuitive, I think delaying is an art. I know we're all told, get it done right now. And I think in most cases that's right. But I think sometimes we're so programmed to do that, we forget that sometimes the best decision is no decision at all. Or at least not one you're making today. I had a guy who worked for me. It was a Friday, and there was some reason he wanted to fire someone who worked for him. And he said, I'm going to do this right now. I said, take the weekend. It's not going to hurt anything. Think it through. He was making the wrong decision, so I was trying to help him come to the right decision, And he took the weekend and he came to me and he thanked me Monday morning. He says, I thought it through. I said, yeah, you're about to go wreck someone's life just because you're ticked off today. I mean, you can't do that. So again, I think that's an art. These letters, DK, DK. I have a 17-year-old daughter who's a senior in high school. And she went to a program for a semester in New York called City Term in her junior year, where they went and lived in New York, and it was very experiential learning and the like. It was terrific. And when we went to the first gathering of people, they had DK, DK written everywhere. And DK, DK stands for don't know what you don't know. And I think that was a really good way to look at things, that it's okay to say that you're so lost that you don't even have the right questions to ask, but just live in it and experience it a little bit, and it'll come out okay. I would tell you the last things are that the most important thing, this is a little tricky here, the most important thing is to keep the most important thing, okay? Stay really focused. Whatever it is, you have laser focus. I don't care what it is you're going to do. You'll probably do it really well and be really happy and be fulfilled. Churchill said, never, ever, ever give up. I think that's kind of the same thing. I believe in that one too. And my last one is that, and this is from someone who I followed for a long time, and it's on the bottom of every email I send. It says, if you will it, it is no dream. So if you want it bad enough and you have the will, you can get it done. I appreciate your time today. Thank you very much.